What's up, guys? Justin Brock here with the Insurance Gurus podcast, and today we have no stranger to our office, our platform, Medicare and Insurance Gurus podcast, or the internet for sure. We have Christian Brindle in here, and we're going to chop up some content. Nobody puts out quite the quantity of content in Medicare that Christian has over the past few years, I don't think. So he's definitely not a stranger to getting on here and helping agents. And that's what we're going to talk about today is another way that he's helping agents with more content that he's been working hard on. And this form of content is one of the hardest to create. And I'll say this, okay, Christian, I've written a couple of books now, and you've written some books, and it's easy to get on and make videos and just spitball and all that. And there's a lot of people out there that write books, but don't actually sit down and write them. But one thing I know about yours and mine is we sit down and actually write them. Like, we're sitting down thinking about what we want to say and putting it there. We're not just saying, hey, go watch some of my YouTube videos, Ghostwriter, and throw this into some script and let's pretend like we wrote a book. That seems disingenuous to me. I know a lot of the industry, I know a lot of the entire book world does that, but I know you don't. I know you actually take ideas the way you want it to be written, and you take that and actually create it. And I respect that. So tell us about this book, man, and welcome.
Yes. Well, Justin, thank you for having me. It's an honor, and I really appreciate you spending some time with me and having me on. Yeah, it's so true. I was talking to someone the other day because I actually, when I write my books, just like you, I'm writing out an outline of actually what I'm trying to hit on in terms of different topics, and I am just sitting there on Microsoft Word and I'm literally typing the book out like word for word. I talked to someone the other day and they're like, so what program do you use that, records your words and you speak it? I'm like, yeah. I'm not using that. I'm like, that never even crossed my mind, I'm like, and then of course, the other people that just, repackage their YouTube videos and things like that. To me, that's just lazy. I think it should be fresh content. But the book that I have come, that actually just came out in the last, 6 or 7 days here. It's called Superstar: What Separates Top Producing Insurance Agents from the Mediocre Ones. I actually have a copy of it right here. So it's
what's the girl? What was Molly Shannon? Superstar.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. when I posted it a couple of different places, there were several people that put those GIFs on there. They're like, Superstar. And
yeah. So, she used to do this. She'd put her hands in her armpit. She said, when I get nervous, I put my hands in my armpits and then I smell them like this. That was the movie back in the day. Her boyfriend was, or the boy she had a crush on was Will Ferrell.
Yeah. And he was like this charming, dashing guy. And
the jock, super, super nice, charming, athletic, which is funny because Will Ferrell's not that guy
at all. My favorite thing about that movie is Will Ferrell's 45 and he's in high school.
Yeah, he's a high schooler and she's probably 32 or something. Yeah, that's funny. Well, Superstar, it makes it easier to remember. And going back to just what you were saying about the writing the book, I did the same thing. The outline, when I was sitting down doing the Medicare marketing manual, it was I sat down and I was like, okay, what points do I want to get across? What all advertising strategies or streams have I used successfully or unsuccessfully? And I made that outline. And then as I would write the book, I'd keep going back to my own outline. And when I'd start to get lost, I'd be like, okay, all right, just kind of keep me going. And I talked to some pretty legit, real authors that are general fiction and authors. We're very fortunate that Jeff, that works with his wife, is a very sought after author. She's written 38 books, and she actually writes the books like that too. So I think that's interesting that the book industry is kind of messing up books. So we'll just repackage content into a book. To me, a real book is when you take what's in here and work for a long time to push it out onto paper versus all that repackaging stuff. So kudos, man, for actually, creating something that's valuable.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, to me, I like books the books that you've put out, I like books that are specific content for, that specific topic. And it's not just the same thing everywhere. For this book, it's the second book that I put out for agents. For me, what I wanted it to be was I wanted it to almost be almost like a case study of like, what are the top 1% of producers doing that everybody else is not doing? And I think there's a lot that makes that up. I certainly think they look at things differently. I definitely think that they think about things differently than an average agent. And it might seem cliche, but I think that, I think the agents that are, putting up tremendous numbers, and they're putting up numbers that might equal to a small agency sometimes all by themselves. I think what they have going on is I think that they don't have a sense of victimhood, for one. Like you don't see those kind of people like blaming leads, blaming their upline. You don't see them, always this woe is me. It's if there's a challenge, like, okay, there's a problem. Let's find a solution. They're looking for solutions instead of really like pointing fingers in the blame game. I just think that they're wired quite a bit differently in terms of like how hard they work. I remember you were at the summit, and one thing I vividly remember from one thing you said on your presentation on stage, and I thought it just hit the nail right on the head, was you're not going to be as successful and achieve my level of success unless you work your butt off, right? Unless you work really, really hard. So there's a lot of conversation in the book about, listen, this is what top producers are doing. This is what megastar producers are doing. They work their butts off. They're always changing. They're always adapting. They're always learning. But they look at things from a different lens than everybody else is. And that's what makes them, who they are.
What makes them a superstar. So, yeah. So the superstar. So the emphasis of the book is on the top performing independent agent, which I think is great because, sometimes the biggest owner of distribution in our industry can be some private equity guy that comes in and isn't even doing things that efficiently, but has a lot of money to burn. And that doesn't make sense to go after. Me and you both built as independent producers first, and then as we scale out into whether it's a media brand or selling SaaS software or building a distribution, a downline, all of that is now funded, and each venture funds the next. But the first building block for me even scaling past being a producer was being a damn good producer.
Yeah.
Going out and building up renewals. And the great thing about the Medicare and health insurance world is the renewals do build a foundation to kind of become your trampoline to jump off of, right? And so even if somebody wants to be a distribution head or a build a big agency with a bunch of inside sales LOAs like we have, or any of that kind of stuff, in my opinion, if you don't just have a whole bunch of money already to blow, and even then probably not a great way to blow it, you'd be better off just going and being a top producer and financing your own agenda. And it's not like it's the most glorious work from day one. Sometimes, it's not that it's not super worthwhile and fulfilling, but it's hard, And the cool thing about what you just said was, with the victimhood stuff, right? I find that some of the people that have the right to claim victimhood more than others are not the ones doing it. Most of the ones that are screaming, "Woe is me," and "Look at what happened to me." I'm thinking, that's not that bad, buddy. You just suck it up. So it's funny because you see that, and I think that maybe a lot of that comes from grit. I think I talked to Timon, and we've heard this before, but he reiterated it the other day. I can't remember who I heard it from. Maybe it was like a Gary Vee thing, but originally somebody said the number one trait you should look for when hiring a salesperson or anybody really is grit, and that is, that feeling of if he can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. As well, they have this and I don't have that. you have a voice, you have a brain, you know.
Yeah.
And I think we're past the point, like, you know, where race, gender, all of that, I mean, you know, intellect level of parents, education level, whatever, you know, none of that really matters if you can take the time to learn the stuff and then apply the elbow grease to it. You can make it. So I think it's a great idea for a book too, to, like, you know, outline what it takes, because so many people, I think it takes something that it doesn't. And I know you will have absolutely put it. So I do need you to send me a copy of your book, Christian, so that I can do an
Absolutely.
review. Because I will definitely do that. Because I don't know if you're like this. I can read industry books so fast. When I try to read something that's not related to, like, finances, Medicare, economics, I struggle to get through it. Like, I'm 2 chapters in, like, setting it down. I pick it up 3 weeks later, read another chapter. But when it's like Medicare related, I'm just like blazing through it, just because that's what I live in. So
There's not a lot of Harry Potter books on my bookshelf. So
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate them. I appreciate
Yes.
it. But yeah, I always struggled with that. I'd read like a chapter or two. But when it's like nonfiction about the financial sector, even before I was in Medicare, economics books, I read like Thomas Sowell, Basic Economics or something like that stuff. I thought that was cool. So I'm just a nerd. So
I like those same kind of books. Like I like to feel like I'm getting something out of a book. Like if I'm reading something, I like to feel like it's making me better at what I do, or it's helping me learn more about investing my money, or something like that. Like I like to feel like it's making me closer to my goals than anything else. And then when I read things like Harry Potter or whatever the case might be, they're great books, they're great stories, you know, they're all-time classics and things like that. But like I have this nagging thought in my head that I'm like, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting time.
The only thing, so I'll do to check out, like my checkout of, you know, like I feel like everybody has this, and I do it a lot less these days than ever, but you know, you need that, like, let me just turn my brain off for a minute. So I can't do that in a book. So I'll do it in like an action movie or something, like a Taken vengeance movie. Like, you know, he took his daughter, get revenge. That's my hour and a half. Like, forget about the world. Then as soon as it's over, I'm like, I feel so lazy. I got to go work now. So, you know,
those are my favorites. Like there's nothing better after like a hard day, right? Or like a long day than like Liam Neeson chasing like 45 people around Europe or something. And there's so many of those movies too. You can never run out of them.
Shoot, just with Liam Neeson, you got like 17 of them. Then you can move over to Jason Statham. You got another 23 of those. So, but yeah, those, for me, those are as corny as those movies are. That's my mental checkout. I can't mentally check out when I read. So when I'm reading, I do want it to be self-help, informative, something like that. I can read a little bit of, like, you know, How to Win Friends, Influence People, that kind of stuff. But even those, like, I can't read them as fluidly through in one sitting as I can a finance-based, like economics, Medicare-related book. I can sit there and read like the Medicare Board of Trustees report. Would probably kill themselves rather than read that. But I could read that all the way through, and then if I was reading like Dale Carnegie or Think and Grow Rich or something, I'm like a 2 or 3 chapter guy, and then I got to put it down for a week. Just who I am. And I actually think there's a correlation between sales guys, like really good sales guys, and having trouble reading certain types of things. Like it has to be, you know, I was even having, you know, hiring some new guys right before AEP this year to staff up, you know, and one of them like failed a test or AHIP the first time. And it's like an 86, you know, and then he passed it after that. But his kind of looked downtrodden about it. And he blazed through the course. Like it was his first day. He was in there. It was like 10 a.m. He's like, already failed it. And I was like, well, you blazed through it. And I was like, you'll probably make a really good salesperson.
Yeah.
Because salespeople don't always make good test takers.
No, like when I took my licensing exam, I had to take it multiple times.
Yeah.
Like I failed it my first couple of times.
I passed with a 74. And so I tell people that all the time, like with pride, because like passing for us was a 70. I passed with a 74. And I said, look, I'm we have 30 employees. We have thousands of downline agents. We're going to multi-million-dollar agency, and I made a 74. All you got to do is pass. Then you don't have to worry about that again. I tell everybody that's getting their license that.
It's interesting because like I feel like there's two personality types, like in I think our industry. I think there's that, right, where they're like alpha salesperson, right? They're very, very just natural salespeople. They're just really, really good at it. Or they're able to develop it, right? And they have that grit that, you know, you were talking about. Then there's people that, but a lot of times they struggle with AHIP. They struggle with the licensing exam. Like they just have a hard time with that kind of stuff because they just want to go out and make sales.
Yeah.
Then there's the other type of person that they blaze through all the tests. Like it's just easy peasy for them. Like, you know, they'll get a 98 on AHIP the first time. They'll get a 90 on their licensing exam or something like that. And they have a nightmare of a time dialing, making sales, talking to people. But they'll know every little thing about policy, about election periods, about this carrier's process. And there's always value in those people. I'm not saying that there's not value in those people because they bring a lot of value. And a lot of times they're unique. A lot of times there's less of those than maybe there are the salespeople. Yeah. But I see a lot of people like that, you know, like they're in one of those two personality camps. I think you and me are in the salesperson personality camp.
Yeah.
Like
we're in like for us, it's everything is do. Like I gotta do. Okay. Like I don't sit around and think about it very much, which can make it hard to take a test because sometimes you got to memorize a bunch of jargon. But we're all practical application. You know, I learn best by doing. You know, when I don't think I didn't like when I started off. You know, my dad was an agent, and it was like, "I'll just read the Medicare and Health handbook." There was no training platform. I didn't know what an FMO was. Now I actually think that's a gift that I didn't because I just had to figure it out. And but you know, the first time I got somebody who would actually talk to me about their Medicare plan, I was basically learning it as I was doing theirs. Like, so I learned it, you know, which I know some people may think is like, oh, you need to know all this. And they're the other side of that coin where it's like, oh, I got to know everything before I start. But the thing is, guys, you're never going to know everything. You're never going to know. I don't even think you're going to know 80% everything. We run into scenarios all the time where you're like, you know, and sometimes it's a scenario that you ran into before, but last time you ran into it was 2 years ago. And so you've already forgotten. You're like, I can't remember. Like, I think Mike came to me yesterday with, what was it? It was a lady who had gotten a divorce and she had never worked, but her husband that she had been married to for 30 years had, and she was 62 now, getting on Social Security, trying to get Medicare, or 65. I think she's trying to get her Medicare active, but he was only 60 or 58 or something like that.
Oh,
so I was like, is she eligible for Medicare through him? And I was like, I'm pretty sure she is, but it came to one of those things where I'm like, I don't know.
Don't remember.
I can't remember exactly. Like, you know what I mean? But you're going to run into that stuff. Like and it's just a, you know, odd sequence of events and ages, you know. But, you know, you're just not going to run into that every day. I use this one example all the time where we had to call Mutual of Omaha's PDP department and educate them on the special enrollment period that was that we needed to use because they kept saying it wasn't one, and it was one. And it was retroactive determination of benefits for when someone had been retroactively determined eligible for disability Medicare years ago, but they put all their A and B effective dates way back when, and so they're outside of their IEP and all that. And there was no FEMA SEPs or we weren't trying to use SPAP or any of that stuff that people try to get through there. We were like, this is the legitimate SEP for this. And they're like, that's not an SEP. So I have to pull up like United Healthcare's guide or somebody that had it in one of the big charts and show them. So like even the people that work in the SCP approval division of drug plan and Medicare Advantage companies don't know all of even their specific lane. And so with all the stuff we can run into, at some point you just got to start helping people. And then when you can't figure it out, that guess what? There's six-figure Medicare agent, there's Medicare gurus, there's uplines, there's so many people that are willing to help. And it's so much different than when we came into it. Like, to get help, I mean, you could go create a login on insurance forums and get told how stupid you were by Dakota 65 or Indianapolis 297 or some, dork that probably doesn't even write that much business. But now, and I know I'm rambling, but how do you feel about this anonymous post?
I hate it.
So we're letting them go through, and you did one in Gurus, and you said, this is not Christian Brindle. I think,
yeah.
And you were like the first anonymous post we had in there, and then I started going through, and most of them are, I think, maybe afraid of their upline seeing them post in there or something, and so I approve most of them because they're not spammy most of the time. But at the same time, I hate, I'm never going to approve one that sounds like one of those insurance forms guys, because back in the day, they would just use that anonymity to be jackasses,
Oh, totally. I think a lot of people that try to post anonymously don't realize that the admin has to see it, approve it, see who it is.
Yeah,
I don't I don't think they know that. So we've been approving them as well, but there have been a couple that we see them and it's just like, oh, you're taking advantage of this whole anonymous thing.
Right.
I've never liked that. I feel like, to me, somebody that doesn't want to put their name out there, their profile picture out there, they're either afraid of somebody else seeing it and the repercussions, which I understand that, or they just want to be a total douchebag and they don't want any repercussions for that. And
they want to troll people, and we'll have them come in the group, and their name will be like Robert Sanchez, profile created 2 hours ago. I'm like, no, sir, you're not coming in here.
Yeah.
So my favorite too recently, and I know I'm the guy that hates on the Pakistani people. By the way, I have no quarrels with the country Pakistan. It is what it is. That just happens to be where a lot of these phone calls I get from, I'm somebody has put me into all the call algorithms. Ha ha ha! They got me. I get like 50 or 60 this day. But I'll get the people joining the group now, and they'll. First question is, "Are you an insurance agent?" And it'll be like, Islamabad, Pakistan, and then it'll be like, yes,
yeah, we get it too.
No, you're not.
It's amazing how many lead generators there are from Pakistan.
I know, man.
I'm like, is this
really just live trend? They just start these call centers and just start calling people. One of them actually was reaching out to us. I'm sure you've gotten this, and trying to ask us how to sell Medicare, because he's like, we want to sell it from Pakistan. I was like, you can't. What are you talking about? But that's been an interest. I think Pakistan really took it and ran with the industry lead side more than any other country. So that's why there's so many of them. And it may be the cost of, maybe the amount of money they can make over there doing it is, and there's no compliance. I was talking to Wicker's office and NAHU's, some of the lobbyists at NAHU, and there's just there's nothing. We talked to the FCC, what do you call it? It's the Commerce Committee liaison for the Senate, about these phone calls, and they're trying to figure out who can even police this, because CMS is kind of like, well, TCPA compliance and FCC and Commerce is not, we can't stop those overseas things. Of course, I keep coming back to, couldn't they technically say that a Medicare Advantage sale could not result from a call that originated outside the United States? I feel like that could be a CMS rule, but they keep trying to say that's a Commerce rule. And then Commerce says, well, we can't really do anything about people in Pakistan. And so I'm like, so basically it seems like you're in this limbo of nothing we can do about that. But anyway.
And that's just kind of scary to me. You know what I mean? Because we did a seminar last night, a Turn 65 seminar, and I stayed behind at the end to talk to this couple. Wanted to talk to me, and they were talking about how they're 50% of the calls we get, I think, are legitimate agents. That they're trying to sell us something, but they're just cold calling us out of the blue. The other 50% are clearly like spammers, scammers. So like
Yeah.
that to me, I was like, half of every single call these people are getting, and they're probably getting a, 3, 4, 5 a day,
Mhm.
are just complete like scam.
Yeah.
And not legitimate or anything like that. So like there's a lot of people out there that have realized, oh, we can latch onto this. We can just blend in with all the other agents that are, marketing to these people and calling these people. And it just sucks. It just sucks.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're even seeing in the ACA side, we've heard there's some people that are doing the enrollments in overseas call centers. So they're not having to call them. So there's agents stateside basically sending all the data to Dominican or somewhere and then just having them do all this enrollment data. I've just never been, I'm not sure what the legality of it is since they're enrolling, but I'm like, this is an agent transaction. So anytime we do that, like even though we're scaling out the ACA side, we're using LOA agents to do it that are FFM certified and all that. And so I'll be talking to people about scaling that side, and they'll be like, well, do I have to use agents? And I'm like, I would, man. I just like I have a certain expectation of like the quality of what we are supposed to do. And I feel like somebody that's handling that and picking plans, even if they're communicating through chat or text, and they're not talking to somebody, it still needs to be an agent because they're helping them make decisions that only a licensed agent should be helping them make. Especially when if my E&O is on the hook for it, I need it to be a licensed agent. I need it to be somebody who there's some sort of standard for who they are. I'm not saying an admin can't help with like paperwork and tying up loose ends and all that. But when it comes to plan selection, I couldn't believe that I heard that people were sending that to overseas call centers and having them fill out the applications with including the plan selection phase. So
yeah, that's just crazy to me. I mean, I guess it's like, I've talked to some people in the ACA world, and I guess they feel like the people that are doing it, they're like, there's just such gray areas with compliance with ACA. It's just such a wide open blue ocean right now.
Yeah.
And
that is true. I just know one day it's the 2007, 2008 Medicare Advantage chop is coming.
Yes.
I want to be the guy sitting there, be like, no. Everybody we have doing it are LOA, FFM certified agents sitting in my office that we have trained, not some Dominican or, not again, Pakistan or whoever they are. I'm not
totally.
Not a country. I love the Dominican. They're not licensed agents.
I think anytime you have massive compliance changes coming, it's because there's activity like this that goes on for enough period of time and it's happening enough. So I think it will be the reason why we see compliance come down the pipeline at some point for ACA.
Yeah.
And that's really how I think about it. That's how I look at these new Medicare regulations coming October 1st. I think I look at it like there were rules in place and there were so many people, probably for the most part, these very large, publicly traded call centers, probably more than any others, but like there was enough people out there that just were completely disregarding the current rules. So they felt like they needed more strict rules. Yeah. I think if everybody was following the rules, which that's a pipe dream, I'm sure, we probably wouldn't see that kind of increased regulation. If anything, we would see it take a step backwards.
It's when there's also like one entity that's able to just churn in agents, and throw money at leads and buy transfers, and they really, I feel like those rules. If I could go back to, 2 or 3 years and obliterate 3 entities and maybe even 2 entities from the entire industry, I don't think those rules would have even come to fruition.
Yeah.
Because 2 of them did so much damage, and everybody blames it on the commercials. And I'm not pro the commercials, which there was a cool Wall Street Journal article that came out recently about the commercials. But I'm telling you, the live transfers really pushed it over the edge. The commercials had been around for several years, and they caused issues. I know you get some traffic on some YouTube videos.
Yes.
The commercials. And they're misleading, and I'm not an advocate of those commercials, but the live transfers are so much worse to me because they would plucking these people out of their recliner watching MASH and saying, this is John from Medicare benefits. Like, how can you even say that? And then say, you have part A and B. Okay, hold on. And then they like, and I think the way that, I think technically the way it's being done is not compliant already, but the way they're saying, from what I heard, they're sending them through a phone line that makes it appear as an internet lead. So it pings through a phone line. So when it shows up at the call center, they're like, oh, it's an internet lead. It's not an internet lead. It was an outbound phone call from Pakistan. You know, from a guy who is not named John. But anyway, I like these conversations anyway. This will actually listen well, I think, to people. But to come back to, what we're here for, man, you got this book coming out. How can people get their hands on a copy of Superstar?
Yeah, the best place to find it is on Amazon, of course, right? Where you can find anything. So whether you like ebooks, we have the Kindle version out. Whether you like paperback, we even have. I actually got an email this morning that said the hardcover is out now. Yeah, so I need to order some hardcover copies. But
Amazon just started doing that too, so we need to order some for some of ours as well. So, so head over to Amazon. Superstar: What Separates
Top Producing Insurance Agents from the Mediocre Ones.
Yep. All right. So if you look up Christian Brindle Superstar, you're going to find it, guys. Head over to Amazon, check it out. Don't wait. Get your hands on a copy. It'll be a good read, I'm sure. Johnny wants a copy too. He wants to sign.
Got one in the mail for Johnny.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching today and listening to me and Christian ramble about all kinds of stuff. Don't forget to go get his book over on Amazon, Superstar, Christian Brindle. Thank you for being here, and we are...
It's time to grow your agency like a guru. Introducing Go Guru Pro. The Go High Level platform allows for minimizing software-based subscriptions and grants control over several facets of marketing and communication. Automate your workflow, communicate with your leads, book appointments in advance, and house all your clients in one secure location. Visit goguru.pro and schedule your one-on-one demo today.